Well, for more on the outlook of Russia's economy, I'm joined by Aurel Braun. He's Professor of International Relations and Political Science at the University of Toronto. So give us some background here. How is this conference different from the others like the St. Petersburg Forum?
Well, the expectations that were there before this clash in Ukraine have changed very significantly. There was swift condemnation of Russian actions at the Kerch Strait, not only from NATO, but also from the EU. And the American ambassador to the United Nations was extremely harsh in criticizing Russia. Mr. Trump himself has said that at this G20 meeting, he may not meet possibly with Mr. Putin. Russia is very much in need of Western investments. They would like to see sanctions lifted or ameliorated. The trend lines now have been reversed. There are likely to be harsher sanctions, and certainly tensions have increased dramatically.
So then with those added tensions, how important is the timing of this conference, especially as the G20 summit is about to kick off?
Well, Russia somehow seeks to try to get back into the international economic system unscathed. And this is very, very difficult because there is a linkage between politics and economics. They can't separate it. They've tried that. Sometimes they've been successful to a limited extent. So, for example, Germany has been eager to conduct economic relations with Russia because they are dependent on energy. And they are trying to proceed with Nord Stream 2. But even in this case, the picture has changed because energy prices have been coming down. And there are now a lot of different sources for energy. The United States, for example, has become the largest energy producer in the world. It is eager to supply LNG, liquefied natural gas, that could diminish the dependence of Germany, for instance, on Russian natural gas. So the kind of leverage that Russia could use by employing economic tools to get political gains, those are diminishing. So Russia is trying every possible way to lock in agreements, to generate long-term investments, right, to try to diminish the sanctions.
And certainly, naturally, when you think about Russia, you think about energy. So talk about the impact, not just of that sector, but others that Russia is trying to diversify into to ensure that longer-term economic growth.
Well, this is one of the key problems that the Russian government is facing. You will have noticed that Mr. Putin, who used to enjoy sky-high ratings of support among the population, the latest Levada polls show a dramatic drop in support of popular approval of Mr. Putin. It's down to something like 39%, which is one of the lowest that he has ever had. And so he needs to get the economy moving again. The economy has been performing very poorly. There used to be a kind of tacit understanding that the people are not going to demand a variety of political reforms, but in exchange they will have a steady improvement in the standard of living. That improvement in the standard of living is not happening. Corruption is rampant. The economy is relatively stagnant. The world is flooded with energy right now. The economic prospects for Russia are not looking good.
So then what's giving investors at this point the most motivation as well as the most concerns about investing in Russia?
Well, there are many concerns. Sanctions, as you had mentioned earlier, are one of the factors. But the other problem in Russia is the level of corruption. If you look at Transparency International, Russia ranks very poorly in terms of controlling corruption. And investors are reluctant to put money in when they do not have reliable business law, when they do not have assurances that they will get to keep profits or that they can really count on profits at all. And so Russia needs to really transform its business environment significantly if it is to get the economy moving again. It also needs to get off this very heavy dependence on energy. I mean, the Russian economy is not very diversified.
So then, as we look at the countries that Russia is reaching out to shore up its economy, how is its approach different, say, from how it approaches the EU versus, say, the US or perhaps China?
Well, the problem is that there are nuances, of course, in the differences among the various countries that Russia is reaching out to. So Russia was able to make a very large energy deal some years ago with China. But again, that's kind of a one-off. To have long-term sustainable relations, you need to be diversified, you need to be flexible, you need to be adaptable. And that's very difficult to do when you have a system that is centralized, that is corrupt, where business law is very highly unpredictable, where there are external sanctions leveled at Russia, and where political actions and military actions by Russia create international situations where at least many countries are very upset at Russia and are likely to take steps. So Russia is not very successful, nor is it likely to be successful, to sort of separate one group of countries entirely from the others. We are looking at a globalized system.
Exactly. Thank you so much. We'll have to leave it there. Aurel Braun there, Professor of International Relations and Political Science at the University of Toronto.